Today we're talking about Wim Hof breathing and its effect on your ABGs, your arterial blood gases. This is kind of a fun one. To start, we have to first have a conversation about the pH scale. So the pH scale is right here. So that stands for hydrogen ions. Hydrogen ions are acid. That's what we're measuring in the blood. So the scale is 0 to 14. The lower, the more acidic. The higher, the more alkalinic. Now the body rests at around 7.4 on average, and it can swing between a low of 7.35 or 7.45. It does that. That's homeostasis. Below this, you become acidic. Above that, you become more alkalinic. So that's how the pH scale works. Now, you can push these endpoints over time with practice, and you become more physiologically adapted or physiologically flexible. And Wim Hof breathing is one way to do this. So let's get into the chemistry. So here's the equation here. As you exhale, you blow off, you have more CO2 in your bloodstream. That combines with the water, because there's a lot of water in blood. That turns into carbonic acid, which then quickly dissociates into bicarbonate and hydrogen ions. So again, that's acid. So in other words, the more CO2 in your bloodstream, the more acidic you become. Right? This is the buffering system. So as bicarbonate builds up, the equation goes the other way and you become more alkalinic. And by the way, just a little side note here, bicarbonate is made from histidine and beta-alanine. This is what you can use beta-alanine for. So it helps produce more bicarbonate and allows you to buffer the hydrogen, allowing you to work out longer. Just a little side note. So the Wim Hof breathing looks like this. Usually about 20 to 30 rounds of that, sort of a forced inhalation and then a long exhale. Right? So what you're doing is taking a lot of O2 and blowing it off on a lot of CO2. So it does the opposite of this equation, and you become more alkalinic. At the end of those 20 to 30 rounds of those deep breaths, then there's an inhale and then a hold, and you'll be surprised at how long you can hold your breath for the first time you do this, because you're hyperoxygenated. And then you do an exhale and then a hold. Right? And then again, so you hold that as long as you can. What's happening now is you're building up a ton of CO2. So you went from a sort of higher alkaline point to now a lower acidic point. So you're doing something like this, a bigger swing. And they found that you can get up to 7.75 on the alkalinity scale. So again, this pushes those endpoints and you become more physiologically flexible. Another interesting point here is doing this, some research found this, I'll put a link in the notes, is that this can upregulate the inflammatory mediators by 200% and downregulate the pro-inflammatory mediators by 50%. So there's some emerging evidence that you can actually reduce autoimmune disease just from these breathing techniques.